How's it going, everybody? My name is the Drum Guy and welcome back to a brand new video. And today's video is something new. It's a new idea that I've come up with for the channel, and as you can tell by the title, I am naming this brand new idea as the discography discussion. And what this series is basically about is, as it says on the tin, I've made a tier list of the standard, pretty much S, A, B, C and D, obviously S being the best and D being the worst, and we're going to talk about a specific band and their albums from across the year. Now, this is by no means me trying to say one album is better than the other. This is simply all my opinion. You may differ, but I'd love to hear in the comments below what you people think. Do you agree with some of the stuff I say, or do you disagree in how I rank the albums? So to start off this series, I thought I would choose a band that I know very well, and I know pretty much all their albums as I do own them, which is Avenged Sevenfold. I don't have a lot of Avenged Sevenfold related content on my channel, which is weird considering they're one of my favourite bands. So without further ado, let's get into it, because I want to see how this goes in terms of, do you guys like this idea for a video? I'm hoping you do, because I think this is great open for discussion in comment sections about albums, about bands. So let's get into it. So of course, as I've mentioned, Avenged Sevenfold is the topic of discussion for this video, and of course we're going to go across all their albums. So of course, the first album that Avenged Sevenfold broke onto the scene with is Sounding the Seventh Trumpet. Now, in my opinion, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet is a really underrated album. It's obviously one that not a lot of people talk about much anymore, because they don't typically play any of the songs live anymore. It is a very different style to anything that they've done. It's very scream heavy orientated, and to be honest, not putting the album down, there's a lot of messiness to it in terms of just how it sounds, but that was sort of the sound it was going for. It was the first studio album. There was a lot of sort of I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it was just like sort of messiness, but it worked. There are some songs to sort of highlight. To End the Rapture, which is the first opening track, I think they sometimes, very rarely, play that live. It's only a very short song, at like 1 minute 30 seconds, but it's a very like recognizable sounding song just in the intro. If you've heard the song, you know what I'm on about. And if you haven't listened to any of the songs on this album, then go and have a listen to the album. But yes, To End the Rapture is probably one of the more notable songs on the album. In my opinion as well, songs such as Warmness on the Soul. Warmness on the Soul is the slowest song on the album. It's the softest track. But there's something to it, like, it's where we really got to hear M Shadow's clean vocals, because majority of the album was all screaming vocals, and this was the first time where you really heard his clean vocals, and you can tell the difference in his voice. There's not as much raspiness to his voice than he has now, because obviously he went through vocal training. But Warmness on the Soul, it's still, I don't know, it has a special place. I think it's a very beautiful song. I actually really like the song. They did do a music video to it, technically. It was like one of the first music videos, so you can actually watch a music video. It's very cheaply made. It's basically the band with a friend and a camera. Essentially, that's what it is. But it is still a music video nonetheless. So go and check out the music video. And like I said, I think it's a really beautiful song. It's one of my favourites from the album. And probably another song off the top of my head that I think is quite noticeable is the song called Streets. Streets is, again, different from the others. It's a lot more singing vocals to screaming vocals, which is why I think it's also a bit more of a notable song, because in my opinion, a lot of the songs on this album kind of blend into each other. Like, they're all sort of fast-paced, screaming, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not trying to really shit on this album, but it's hard for me to sort of think of songs, like pick them out. Really, it's hard for me to pick out some of these songs. But The ones I've mentioned, and like I said, Streets, I can pick out because it's different. And it starts off really cool. It starts off with basically the Rev going nuts on the drum kit, which is, it's the Rev, man. You can't beat him. So, but it is a really cool sounding song. So with that being said, I'm probably going to play Sound in the Seventh Trumpet in C tier. It's not a bad album, okay? I wouldn't give it a D rating. It's not great, but like I said, there are like some songs that I can sort of pick out, and in my opinion, songs such as Warmers on the Soul and Streets save it from that D tier. So I'm going to put it at a C, and we'll see how we go from there. So now we come to the next album, which is arguably one of the best albums that they've ever done, which is Waking the Fallen. This album is the one that really brought Avenged Sevenfold into the spotlight and pushed their careers. It still had elements from the first album, but there was a lot more singing vocals, as they had all. If you watch some documentaries, you'll hear them say, but they already knew where they wanted to go from this album. Pretty much, they knew that Sound of the Seventh Trumpet was not really what they wanted to continue on doing. They knew that by the time Waking the Fallen came out, that M Shadows wanted to do half clean vocals and half screaming vocals, and then by the time City of Evil rolled around, they knew that they just wanted to mainly do clean vocals. So they already had that future plan in mind, and come Waking the Fallen, I think they learned a lot in terms of musicianship, and also being in a studio, and the studio quality is definitely a lot more improved come this album. Now, obviously, they did reissue the album, which is Waking the Fallen Resurrected. I'm not including that in this list because it is just a rehash. It's an anniversary re-release of the first album, and I don't think any of the songs have been re-recorded. I think they're all the original sounding songs. Like, there's no improvement as far as I'm aware. I think all it included was a documentary on the album at the time. And of course, when it comes to this album, this is where we start to get to a lot of very well-known songs. Regardless of what era you got into Avenged Sevenfold, you will know these songs. Obviously, this album contains such songs as Unholy Confessions and Second Heartbeat, two of the most iconic Avenged Sevenfold songs to date. Like, those are songs that will never ever die. To be honest, none of the songs will ever die. This is a great album, and it's heralded as one of the best albums that they've ever done by a lot of fans. It's also known as one of the best metalcore albums. When metalcore started to really break through in the early 2000s, this was pretty much like up there as one of the best metalcore albums ever. And again, this is where Avenged Sevenfold really started to push through. They started going on to Warped Tour, so on and so forth. Another song that I think is also really notable is Chapter 4. I feel like it's a song that's not pushed as much as obviously the other two, Second Heartbeat and Unholy Confessions, but I feel Chapter 4 has a special place for me personally. I think it's a really cool sounding song. Eternal Rest, I think Avenged Sevenfold started to bring that back into the set list over the past few years. Again, another great sounding song. But Unholy Confessions is usually one that's always played on every time they do a performance. Second Heartbeat is thrown in there now and then. So obviously those two songs alone pretty much do carry the album. But obviously, all the other songs have their part to play. Like I said, Chapter 4 is another one for me. Eternal Rest as well. So, with that being said, for Waking the Fallen, I am going to put Waking the Fallen. See, this is the thing. I do really rate some of the songs on Waking the Fallen. Do I think it's A-tier material, though? That's the thing. And I might get a little bit of shit for this. I'm going to put Waking the Fallen in a... Oh, do I put it in the B tier? I'm going to get so much shit for that. Do I actually think it's a B tier album? Or do I think it's an A tier? Do you know what? No. I'm going to put it in the A tier. Yeah. Waking the Fallen is an A tier album. It's the one that really broke the barrier for Avenged Sevenfold and pushed them into the spotlight. So now we come on to arguably, along with Waking the Fallen, the best Avenged Sevenfold album ever, City of Evil. This is where some fans tend to differ. This is where they did their first major musical change. No screaming vocals, all singing, and they weren't as heavy anymore. They went more to a hard rock style. So a lot of old school fans will say Wake in the Fallen's the best album, but some fans will say City of Evil's the best album. This is why these two albums are like constantly, like, I feel, on a set of scales. City of Evil, in my opinion, is a musical masterpiece. The drum work from the Rev is absolutely insane, and so with all of the musicians. They really pushed their song creativity in this album, I feel, with so many different sounding sort of vibes. They threw in some stuff. There's some like Spanish themed-esque parts. So if we look at some of the songs, obviously one of the well, in fact, two of the biggest highlighted songs is Beast and the Harlot and Backcountry. These two songs alone are just masterpieces. Beast and the Harlot obviously having the drum solo in it and having an insane guitar solo, and so with Backcountry also having an insane guitar solo and just mastery drum patterns on the drums. I try and play drums along to these two songs, and they are quite difficult and took me ages to learn. I'm still really not up to par with it, but I enjoy playing these songs. I think as a drummer, this album is just one to digest, because the drumming alone is just mwah, chef's kiss. Other songs, obviously, that are notable: Seize the Day. This is pretty much the ballad of the album. Seize the Day being a very, very iconic song as well. The music video that goes along with it is very, very good as well. Other songs that are notable is Burn It Down. Great song, a great fast-paced song. And if you're a drummer and you really want to learn to play an Avenged Sevenfold song, try and learn Burn It Down. It's a great song. Blinded in Chains is another awesome song with a little bit of a drum solo in the middle again, same as Beast and the Harlot. It's a very, very long song as well. The reason why I keep looking that way as well is because I have the tracking lists up. Trashed and Scattered, great. To be honest, all the songs are good. One I really, really like is Sidewinder. I never, for some reason, I never really gave that song as much credit as I thought until, for some reason, I really started to get into the City of Evil album. And when I say really, I mean really get into it in terms of trying to learn the songs to play on the drums, just so I could learn some new songs. And Sidewinder was one of them, and now it's one of my all-time favourites. The Wicked End, that's a really cool song. And the other thing is, a lot of the songs are really, really long. I'm looking at the tracking list, and like 5 minutes is like the average the average length of the songs. Like 7 minutes, 9 minutes, like it's a long album, right? Coming in at 72 minutes, it's a long album, but it's an album of pure musical genius. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of people say that City of Evil is the album that really pushed them. So with that being said, I am going to throw City of Evil into the S tier. It is probably one of the best albums that they've ever done, and I don't know if they'll ever top it. It's just up there, man. Like, you may want to disagree, but I think it's up there. It's definitely a great album, and it definitely showed the musical creativeness of the band and how much they had matured in their songwriting. And also, quick side note, let's not forget that City of Evil is the album, this is for the drummers out there, City of Evil is the album that had that iconic snare sound. We all know what I mean with the snare sound. Every drummer knows what I'm talking about here. That snare sound is something I really want to have. So yeah, if you're a drummer, I hope you agree with me just saying that snare sound. So moving on to the next, which is the self-titled album, or as people call it, the White Album. This is probably the album that a lot of fans know the most, regardless of being an older fan or a new fan. It's kind of that middle of the ground album, in the middle of the careers. It had a lot of the it has a lot of the more memorable songs, just probably because also it was so well played on radios, and also it's not too much of an old album now. but it's still not really a new album. That's what I'm saying by middle of the ground. Of course, to be honest, every song on this is notable. Critical acclaim, Almost Easy, one of the most, I think, recognizable songs from the album. Almost Easy with the double ride from the Rev, along with Afterlife, another really great notable song. Scream, great song. Gunslinger, Unbound, Brumpton Cocktail, all of them. A Little Piece of Heaven. What that song is an acid trip. Like, if you really digest the meaning of that song, my god, how the hell did the Rev ever come up with that? Dear God, ending the album with, like, pretty much, again, the ballad of the album. All the songs are really great. If you go on YouTube, you can look at, I think it's making of the album. They did a documentary making of this album. It's on YouTube in parts. Go watch it, man. They go through every song. It's brilliant. And, you know, like I said, songs like Lost as well. I think honestly, the underrated songs of this album, you couldn't agree or disagree, are Unbound, Brumpton Cocktail, and Lost. They're the ones that just don't tend to get, in my opinion, as much screen time as the others. Unbound is just, in my opinion, is a really fun song. It's great to play on the drums and really fun. Brumpton Cocktail is such a dark song. If you really digest the meaning to it, but it also sounds really cool. It's a great groove orientated track. Lost, because Lost is a very fast song, and they also toyed with the auto-tune. They really wanted to toy around with that, so I think that's what gives that song a little bit of a niche there. Yeah, it's a great album. I rate it a lot. But here's the thing, do I think it's better than Waking the Fallen and on par with City of Evil, or do I think it's just on par with Waking the Fallen and not as good as City of Evil? I don't know. I'm gonna get so shot up in these comments if people don't agree, and I know it's coming, but like I said, these are my opinions. You can, and I'd love to hear what people think. But, oh God, do you know what? I'm gonna put it in the S tier. I think some of the songs are great. The Almost Easy and Afterlife probably being the top ones for me. It's, yeah, I think it's got probably the most notable songs on it that Avenged tend to always play live. And I was there and ahhing, but do you know what? I've got to give it that S tier ranking because, you know, it gave way to some of the really cool vibing songs, especially, like I said, Almost Easy, and the double ride is one of the most iconic patterns that the Rev ever did. So now we come to the next one. Now I included this because technically, would you class it as an album or not? This is the Live at the LBC DVD, but it also has Diamonds in the Rough. And Diamonds in the Rough was a bunch of B-side tracks from the White Album. And because it pretty much is like an album's worth of content, and it is total different, Diamonds in the Rough, I'm going to class it as an entry. There's not much to talk about the Live at the LBC stuff. It's a live show taping. It's got some awesome performance to it. I've watched it many a time. You can go on YouTube and watch it if you want. It's all there to watch in its glory. I think someone's actually like kind of like HD'd it up a little bit for its quality, because it is like an old recording now. But let's talk about the Diamonds in the Rough. Now like I said, the Diamonds in the Rough is basically B-side tracks from the White Album, as far as I'm aware. There might be one or two that might have been from a more previous time, or completely original to this, but as far as I'm aware, they're all B-side tracks, songs that didn't quite make it to the White Album. There are some songs here that are pretty cool. Crossroads, I think, is definitely up there. Dancing Dead, I think, is pretty cool. Demons as well. I think they're pretty much like my three favourite ones from this. They do throw in some covers, so we've got Flash the Blade, which is the Iron Maiden cover, and Walk, which is a Pantera cover. I think they do alright on it. I like their version of Flash the Blade. Obviously, if you've watched my original versus cover video, you'll know more of my opinions on that. They do have 2 alternate versions of songs, which is Almost Easy and Afterlife. I don't really have much to say on them. It's just like different versions to the song. But I'm trying to focus more on the songs on here that didn't feature on the White Album. You have Girl I Know, Tensions, The Fight, Until the End. There's some of the other songs. I think in an interview, M Shadows said that his least favorite song that he ever wrote, I think, is Girl I Know. It's either Girl I Know or Until the End, but I think it's Girl I Know. It's an alright song. It has the same sounding vibe as the White Album, but there are some good songs on it. So for me, there's not much more really to say about this. I'm not going to rate it for the live at the LBC stuff. I'm going to put this in a B tier. It's pretty much middle of the ground. Like I said, there are some notable songs. Some of the others, I will admit, aren't as strong as others, and I can see why they didn't make it to the White Album. Obviously, if I was grading it for its live at the LBC content as well, I would probably put it higher. But we're just looking at the studio stuff, so yeah, I'd think I'll put it in a B tier. Right, so now we come to another album which a lot of fans know and rate, which is Nightmare. This is the last Rev era album, because he did help write the album. There were some drum tracks which, although his drums didn't feature because it was Mike Portnoy who recorded the drums, they were based off a lot of patterns that the Rev wrote. Some of the songs were written by the Rev, such as Fiction. There are a lot of good songs on this album. Nightmare is a great start, opening to the album. Welcome to the Family is a great song. Buried Alive, I love that song. Natural Born Killer, obviously we have the tribute to the Rev, which was So Far Away, very emotional song. God Hates Us, a very, very heavy orientated song. Fiction being another very emotional song with a lot of Rev's vocals. And then Save Me is just like a musical masterpiece at the end. Other songs, Danger Line is kind of an alright song. It's got a very cool vibe sound to it. There are some pretty decent songs on this album. To be honest, the majority of this album is also good. There's not a lot to hate on this album, to be honest. I think this is definitely like a darker vibe album because of the events that happened surrounding it, with the death of the Rev. A lot of the songs were to do with mourning and loss and so on. And I think this is the point where, in my opinion, Avenged Sevenfold really changed. After this album, which is understandable, I don't think they've ever been the same. We'll get further onto it as I get to as I get onto the other albums after this. But I'm gonna put Nightmare into the A category. Some people might shit on me for that because I haven't put it in the S tier, but I think it's a great album, don't get me wrong. So now we'll come to Hail to the King. Now, Hail to the King, I'm going to start off by saying it's not an album I fully enjoy. This was coming off, I mean, when did this get released? This was it 2013? Yeah, so this was 2013. This was 3 years after Nightmare and the events that surrounded that. Because well, Nightmare came out in 2010. The Rev passed in 2009. So about 3-4 years, give or take, after the events of that album cycle. They obviously had their new drummer, which was at this time Aaron Illajay. And they really went with like a stripped down version, I think, in this album. They went with a classic sort of rock / metal vibe. A lot of people compared this album to Metallica and stuff like that. Song wise, Hail to the King was the title album song. It is okay. I remember like listening to the song when it first came out on like the radio when it got released. It is, you know, it starts off like a pretty cool sounding song with a guitar, and then the ballad Ride hit. That song alone, I think, is probably the better sounding song on the album. Shepherd of Fire is okay. This Means War, not too bad. Coming Home, I think, is not that bad of a song. If I was to suggest some songs from this album, personally, I would probably go Hail to the King, Shepherd of Fire, and Coming Home. They did obviously have a deluxe version which included a song called Saint James, which is a tribute to the Rev. Again, they kind of said that So Far Away was like the sad tribute, and then St. James was celebrating his life. It's a bit more of a uplifted song about the Rev. And to be honest, like that song, it's always weird. I find it weird when like a deluxe version comes out and like a song on the deluxe version like can beat a lot of songs on the main album, and St. James beats a lot of the songs on the standard edition of the album. Yeah, I don't really rate this album all that much, so for that, this is going to be the first D tier I'm going to give. I really just don't rate Hail to the King that much. I think what also, I try not to let it cloud my judgment, but obviously it's the first album that didn't feature the Rev, and obviously because it sounded so different, it kind of just highlighted that. It was like, it's not the same, the Rev's not there, but I try not to let that cloud it, because I'm trying to discuss it on how it sounds regardless. But yeah, I've never really rated this album. I think I listened to it when I remember I bought the album, which is down over here. I own all these albums, by the way. I bought the album, I listened to the entire thing, and I just kind of remember thinking, this ain't it, Chief. I was like, this album just isn't doing it for me compared to some of the others. Like, I think especially after like an album such as Nightmare, this album just wasn't doing it. Right, so now we come to the last album to put into our list, and that is The Stage. Now, The Stage is a beast of itself, to be honest. What do I say about The Stage? The Stage is, I think they tried to go with another City of Evil vibe. It's a very, very long album coming in. In fact, this is the longest album by like beats of the City of Evil by like a minute. They tried to they went with a progressive sort of rock style. They went like Dream Theater mode basically. A lot of weird sounding songs with time signature changes. They obviously had they changed drummers again to Brooks Wackerman, who's a phenomenal drummer and can pull this style of music off. But again, it's not an album I actually enjoyed. The way I look at it is, if there's an album I can look at and I'm like, yeah, I can remember how half of the songs on the album sounded like, then I think it's a great album. You know, if it holds in my mind of how the song sounded. But to be honest, not a lot of these songs really did. When The Stage got released as the music video for the song, not the album, I thought the song was good. The music video is brilliant. It's a great concept, going through like time and stuff for that puppet show. Go watch the music video if you haven't. But apart from that, I think the only other song that I really liked is Goddamn. That's probably about it. Exist is a massively long song coming in at 15 minutes. A lot of instrumental stuff, and it has the speech in there by Neil deGrasse Tyson. So if you're into that, it's pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, it was a cool section for them to do. But again, looking at the tracking lists, I'm looking at the list of songs, and not a lot of these songs stick in my mind. I can't remember how a lot of them go. And I have listened to this album a few times, but I tend to find that after Goddamn, which is track 4, I've kind of zoned out. I'm not really feeling the album, and even then I've had to go through 2 other songs, which is Paradigm and Sunny Disposition, and those 2 songs I can't remember how they go. So when you got a whole album and there's only 2 songs that I can remember, personally, it's just not an album I'm vibing with. So for that, I do think it's an improvement to Hail to the King, because it is a very more like complex sounding album. It's not back to basics and shit. But I think I will give it a C. I don't think I can give it any higher than that. You might be able to give it higher. Some people might think it's a really, really great album. I just don't. I can't give it any higher than that. I really think, I do think it's better than Hail to the King. I don't think it's quite up there with well, to me it's definitely not up there with Waking the Fallen and Nightmare. Diamonds in the Rough, I could guess I could try and put it in par with Diamonds in the Rough, but there are some songs in Diamond in the Rough. There's a lot more songs on Diamond in the Rough that I know off the top of my head to the stage. Thank you everybody for watching this video. That is my tier list from all the albums of Avenged Sevenfold. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't, maybe there are some that you agree or you would swap. I'd love to hear in the comments below what some people think. This is a very long video, and I do apologise, but there's a lot of albums to discuss, so let me know down in the comments what you thought or what you think. Like I said, do you agree, do you disagree, are there some that you would change around? But just as a quick overview, D tier, Hail to the King. C tier, Sound the Seventh Trumpet and the Stage. B tier, Diamonds in the Rough. A tier is Waking the Fallen and Nightmare. And S tier, City of Evil and the White Album, or the Avenged Sevenfold self-titled album. That's what I feel I should have. I'd love to see what you guys think. So and if you like this video, then let me know. I want to see if I should do some more of these videos. So thank you everybody for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all of you. My name is the Drum Guy, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.